Humanity has spent centuries obsessed with the world of effects. We strive to change our actions, to manipulate circumstances, to rearrange the pieces on the chessboard of our lives, hoping to get a different result. We live in a culture of action, of struggle, of doing. And yet, despite all our effort, we often find ourselves with the frustrating reality that even if the pieces change place, the game remains the same. The struggle persists. The dissatisfaction endures. This is because we have been operating under a profound illusion. We have been trying to change the effects without ever understanding the nature of the cause. This audiobook is about that cause, the invisible cause that precedes every effect in your life, the silent force that shapes your health, your wealth, your relationships, and your inner peace. That cause is not your effort. It's not your actions. It's not even your thoughts. It's something more fundamental. It's your state of being. Your state of being is your vibrational home. It is the sum total of your dominant beliefs and feelings, the underlying feeling that accompanies you throughout the day. It is not what you do. It is from where you do it. And this is the master key of creation. This is not a manual for doing more. It is a guide for being different. It is a journey into the heart of reality's engine room, where you will learn that to change the fruit, you must not fight with the branch, but nurture the root. You will learn to identify the states of consciousness you have been inhabiting by default, and to deliberately cultivate those that correspond to the reality you choose to experience. You will discover that all possible states already exist as potentialities, and that your only job is to learn to occupy the state of your wish fulfilled. The power to create does not reside in struggle. It resides in the change of state. Chapter 1. You are not what you do, you are what you feel. The greatest illusion of our culture is the fundamental belief on which we have built our lives, our ambitions, and our very identity. The great illusion is this: we believe that we are what we do. From childhood, we are taught to value action above all else. What do you want to be when you grow up, they ask us. We measure our worth and that of others by their achievements, their professions, their results. I am a doctor. I am an entrepreneur. I have built this. I have achieved that. Our identity is inextricably linked to our verbs, to our actions in the external world. This belief has turned us into a civilization of human doers, obsessed with productivity, efficiency, and effort. We live in a culture of struggle, believing that success, happiness, and peace are prizes won at the end of a long and arduous battle of doing more. We run faster, work longer hours, and strive harder, always with the hope that the next action, the next achievement, will finally give us the feeling of wholeness we long for. And yet, despite all our effort, we often find ourselves exhausted, anxious, and with the persistent feeling that something fundamental is escaping us. We see people who seem to achieve success effortlessly, while we, despite our struggle, remain stagnant. We ask ourselves, why don't my actions produce the results I desire? The answer is that we have been focused on the wrong link in the chain of creation. Action is an effect, not a cause. The first and most important revelation on the path of the conscious creator is this: life does not respond to what you do. It responds to what you are, or more precisely to the state of being from which you act. Defining the state of being. What is a state of being? A state is not a fleeting emotion. It is your vibrational home. It is your emotional and psychological center of gravity. It is the total sum of your dominant beliefs and feelings, the underlying feeling that accompanies you throughout the day and to which, by habit, you always return. A state is a dwelling of consciousness. You can visit the state of joy for a few moments, but if your home is the state of anxiety, you will always return to it. A state is an assumed identity. It is not just something you feel, it is something you are in that moment. To better understand it, we can break down a state into its three main components. Root beliefs. These are the invisible foundations of the state. They are the fundamental assumptions about yourself and the world that you hold as truth. For example, the victim state is built on beliefs like, life is unfair, people always hurt me, and I have no power to change things. Dominant feelings. These are the walls and roof of the dwelling. They are the emotional texture that permeates the state. the victim state feels like resentment, self-pity, frustration, and powerlessness. Imaginary scenes. These are the movies that are constantly projected inside that dwelling to reinforce its reality. A person in the victim state replays in their imagination, in a never-ending loop, scenes of past injustices and rehearses possible future betrayals. Imagine these states as different countries on the map of consciousness. There is the country of scarcity, with its climate of anxiety and its landscapes of lack. There is the country of gratitude, with its climate of peace and its landscapes of beauty. And there is the country of resentment, with its toxic atmosphere and its bitter inhabitants. You are not your actions. You are the state you habitually occupy. You are the citizen of the country in which you have chosen, unconsciously, to reside. The physics of how states create reality. The law of reflection states that your outer world is a mirror of your inner world. Now we can refine that law. Your outer world is a mirror of your dominant state of being. The mechanism is vibrational resonance. Your state of being is a tuning fork that vibrates at a specific and constant frequency. The quantum field, the universe, which is an ocean of all possible frequencies, cannot help but resonate with your signal. It attracts to you by an impersonal law of physics the people, circumstances, and events that vibrate at the same frequency as your state. If you dwell in the state of anxiety, your tuning fork is emitting a frequency of chaos and anticipation of danger. The universe, upon receiving this signal, will reflect back situations that justify your anxiety, setbacks, conflicts, alarming news. If you dwell in the state of confidence, your tuning fork emits a frequency of calm, faith, and security. The universe responds by reflecting situations that validate that confidence, synchronicities, unexpected solutions, fortunate encounters. This is where the powerlessness of simple action is revealed. Action is secondary. Two people can perform the exact same external action, but if they perform it from opposite internal states, they will get radically different results. Imagine two people making the same sales call. The first makes it from the state of scarcity. Their belief is, I need this sale to survive. Their feeling is anxiety. Their mental movie is one of rejection. Although their words may be perfect, their vibration of need and fear travels through the phone and is subconsciously perceived by the customer, who feels an inexplicable distrust and rejects the offer. The second person makes the same call with the same script, but from the state of abundance. Their belief is, I am here to offer immense value, and if this customer sees it, fantastic. If not, there are infinite other opportunities. Their feeling is one of calm, detachment, and service. Their vibration of confidence and non-need is magnetic. The customer feels this security and is attracted to accepting the offer. The action was the same. The state was different. The result was different. Your state of being is the cause. Your action is simply the channel through which that cause is expressed. The first diagnosis of being. Understanding this principle intellectually is the first step. But true mastery comes with self-observation. The conscious creator does not take their state for granted. They become a scientist of their own being, a cartographer of their inner landscapes. One of the most revealing practices an initiate can undertake is auditing their habitual state. It consists of, at the end of each day, taking a journal not to record external events, but to map the quality of consciousness from which those events were lived. The master asks the cartographers questions. What was the emotional home, the predominant climate, that I returned to most often today? Was it the fog of anxiety, the storm of irritation, or the sunny calm of peace? Once the climate is identified, they look for the source of the atmospheric pressure. What story or belief was feeding this feeling? Was I replaying the old narrative that life is hard, or that I am a lucky person? And finally, they examine the projector. What movie was on repeat in the cinema of my imagination? Was I rehearsing arguments or visualizing catastrophes? Or was I imagining possibilities and solutions? A week of this honest logging reveals an incredibly clear portrait of the state one has been projecting into the mirror of life. It is a diagnosis without judgment, an act of awareness that is, in itself, the beginning of all transformation. The master also knows that their body is the most accurate barometer of their state. It is the seismograph that records the tremors of the soul. They cultivate the habit of several times a day pausing and asking, Does my body feel in expansion or in contraction? They know that contraction, that tension in the shoulders, that knot in the stomach, that shallow breathing, is the unmistakable signature of low-vibration states born of fear. And they know that expansion, that openness in the chest, that deep breath, that sense of lightness, is the signature of high-vibration states born of confidence and love. The body does not lie. It is the most faithful oracle. Your life is not defined by what you do, but by the state of consciousness from which you do it. The actions of a king and a beggar can be identical. Both can walk, eat, talk. But they live in radically different worlds because they occupy different states of consciousness. Chapter 2. The Garment of the Soul. Imagine that your pure consciousness, your true self, is like a naked, formless actor. And each state, the state of the victim, the state of the creator, the state of scarcity, the state of abundance, is a complete costume in a vast and infinite wardrobe. Each costume comes with its own script, its own gestures, its own way of speaking and feeling. The problem is that most of us have lived as amnesiac actors. At birth, we were given a costume, often the same worn-out costume of our parents, and we put it on without question. Perhaps it was the garment of anxiety, or of constant struggle, or of not being enough. And we have worn this same costume for so long that we have forgotten it is a costume. We believe it is our skin. When we try to change our life through simple action, it is as if the actor, dressed in the heavy and dark cloak of the victim, tries to play a scene of triumph and joy. It is not believable. Their gestures are forced, their voice lacks conviction. The audience, the universe, is not fooled. It responds to the truth of the garment, not the falsehood of the performance. True change, true transformation, does not happen by changing actions. It happens in the dressing room of the soul. It happens when you have the courage to take off the old, frayed costume that no longer serves you, to stand naked for a moment in the vulnerability of not knowing, and to deliberately choose a new garment from your infinite wardrobe. The two tailors of the soul, imagination and assumption. How are these garments woven and worn? Through two creative faculties, two master tailors who work in the workshop of your mind. The first tailor is imagination. Imagination is what designs and weaves the fabric of the state. The threads it uses are your mental scenes, your inner movies. As we saw in the previous chapter, the subconscious is deeply impressionable by images and stories. Every time you worry, you are using the tailor of imagination to weave with threads of fear the cloak of catastrophe. Every detail you imagine, every negative scenario you rehearse, is a stitch that reinforces that garment. On the contrary, when you deliberately visualize your success, you are using that same tailor to weave the garment of victory. Every scene of your fulfilled desire, every image of your ideal self is a golden thread that is incorporated into your new attire. But a costume, no matter how well designed, is useless if it stays on the mannequin. It must be worn. And this is where the second tailor comes in, the most important of all: assumption. To assume a state is the act of putting on the imaginary garment and feeling it as real. It is the central teaching of the mystic Neville Goddard. To assume a state is to mentally and emotionally accept that your desire is already an accomplished fact. It is not something that is going to happen. It is something that already is on the plane of consciousness. What is the difference between a simple wish and an assumption? A wish is born from the consciousness of lack. When you wish for something, you are implicitly admitting that you don't have it. Your state is one of lack. An assumption, on the other hand, is born from the consciousness of fullness. You are not asking, you are declaring. You are changing your identity. You don't wish to be rich. You put on the garment of the person who is already rich and feel, from within, the security and freedom of that state. You don't hope to find love. You assume the state of the person who is already loved and worthy of love, and you feel the fullness and warmth in your heart. Feeling is the secret. Feeling is what makes the imaginary suit fit your energetic body. It is what turns it from a fantasy into a conviction, and once you have assumed a state, once you have put it on and feel it as your new skin, the law of reflection has no choice but to start reorganizing the external world to match your new garment. The wardrobe of infinite states. Here we come to one of the most liberating ideas of metaphysics. You don't have to create a new state from scratch. You don't have to weave your new garment thread by thread, which could take an eternity. The truth is that all possible states already exist. Imagine your consciousness as a vast and infinite wardrobe. In this wardrobe, perfectly crafted, hangs the costume of every imaginable state. There is the costume of the millionaire, the creative genius, the healer, the Olympic athlete. There is also the costume of the beggar, the sick, the victim. Every possible human state of being is a costume that already exists as a potentiality in universal consciousness. Your free will does not lie in your ability to create new costumes, but in your ability to choose which of them you are going to wear. The process of transformation is, therefore, an act of conscious selection. You look at your life, you diagnose the frayed costume you've been wearing out of habit, the costume of scarcity. Then you enter your inner wardrobe. You look for the costume you want to inhabit, the costume of abundance. And through imagination and assumption, you take off the old one and put on the new one. This process can be challenging. The old costume is familiar. It is comfortable in its misery. Taking off a costume you have worn for 40 years feels like tearing off your own skin. There is a moment of nakedness, of vulnerability, where you are neither the old you nor the new you. This is the threshold that most people do not dare to cross. But if you have the courage to persist, to keep wearing your new garment in your imagination until it feels natural, a moment will come when the transition is complete. The new state will become your new home, and the world, your faithful mirror, will begin to bring you the experiences, the people, and the opportunities that correspond to the new and magnificent garment you have chosen to wear. The practice of conscious dressing. The master creator does not begin his day dressing at random, putting on the first dirty suit he finds on the floor. He begins his day in the silence of his inner wardrobe. One of the most transformative practices is the ritual of morning dressing. Before the world tells you who you are supposed to be, you choose who you are. You ask yourself, what state, what garment of the soul do I choose to embody today? Maybe one day you choose the garment of sovereign calm, another day that of bold creativity. Or maybe you choose a master garment, like that of grateful abundance, and you commit to wearing it for an entire month. Once the garment is chosen, the master does not just think it, he feels it. He takes 5 to 10 minutes in a state of stillness to dress in that state in his imagination. He feels the fabric of calm on his skin. He feels the cut and weight of confidence. He walks around his inner room with his new attire, familiarizing himself with it, adjusting it until it feels completely natural. This is the rehearsal that precedes the great work of the day. When he goes out into the world, he is no longer trying to be calm or creative, he simply is. Another powerful practice is the wardrobe audit. It consists of taking your journal and taking an inventory of the costumes you have been wearing unconsciously. The master becomes a self-observer and notes, "Today, during the meeting, I put on the costume of the fear of judgment. Later, with my family, I put on the old costume of irritability." This awareness is crucial. You cannot take off a costume if you don't realize you are wearing it. By identifying your habitual garments, you gain the power to, in the moment, pause and ask, is this the costume I choose to wear now? Or do I want to go back to my wardrobe and choose another? And so the fundamental question that this principle leaves us with is not what you will do today, or what you will say, or where you will go. The question is much deeper. It is the question that the conscious creator asks himself every moment. What do I choose to be now? What garment of the soul am I going to wear? Chapter 3, The Universe of Infinite States. Now we must explore the true nature of that wardrobe. We must confront one of the most radical, most challenging, and, at the same time, most liberating ideas of all metaphysics. A truth that, once accepted, dissolves struggle and effort forever. The truth is this: you don't create anything. Creation is already finished. This statement seems to contradict everything we have learned so far. If we are the architects of our reality, how is it possible that we don't create anything? The paradox is resolved when we understand that all possible outcomes, all possible realities, all imaginable states of being already exist. They exist as latent potentialities in the infinite mind of the universe, in the quantum field. Imagine the totality of creation as an infinite library. In this library, every possible book is already written and occupies a place on its shelves. There is the book of your life lived in absolute poverty, and right next to it, the book of your same life lived in unimaginable wealth. There is the book where you die young from an illness, and the book where you live to be 100 with radiant health. There is the book of your life of loneliness, and that of your life of deep love. Every possible version of your reality is a book that already exists. From this perspective, life is not an act of writing a book from scratch. It is an act of selection. Your free will does not lie in your ability to create a new reality, but in your ability to choose, through your state of consciousness, which book from the library you are going to take off the shelf and read aloud, thus bringing it into your three-dimensional experience. The quantum field of all possibilities, this idea, which for centuries was the domain of mystics, today finds an astonishing echo in quantum physics. Physics has taught us that, at a subatomic level, reality is not fixed. Before being observed, a particle like an electron does not exist in a concrete place. It exists as a probability wave, a superposition of all its possible states at once. It is everywhere and nowhere. It is pure potentiality. It is only in the moment when consciousness, the observer, directs its attention toward it, that the probability wave collapses into a defined event, into a particle in a specific place. Now, let's expand this idea to a cosmic scale. Imagine that the entire universe, before being observed by consciousness, exists as a vast and infinite quantum field of potentiality. The state in which you are poor and the state in which you are rich are not two separate realities. They are two probabilities coexisting within the same field. Sickness and health are two possible collapses of the same wave of your being. And what acts as the observer that collapses the infinite potentiality into a defined reality? It is your state of being, your dominant state of consciousness. When you inhabit the state of scarcity, feeling lack, believing in limitation, imagining scarcity, your consciousness is observing the probability of poverty. And the quantum field, which is obedient, collapses that wave into the tangible experience of a lack of money. When, through imagination and assumption, you manage to inhabit the state of abundance, feeling gratitude, security, and freedom, you are withdrawing your observation from poverty and placing it on the probability of wealth. And the field, with the same impersonality, collapses that new reality for you. You are not creating wealth. You are selecting a version of reality that already existed as a potential. You are switching from one book to another in the great library of creation. The art of traveling between states. If all states already exist, then the art of manifestation becomes the art of traveling. And in the universe of consciousness, the journey is not made with the body, but with the imagination. Your imagination is the vehicle. It is the ship that allows you, in this very instant, to leave the country of your current reality and travel to the country of your wish fulfilled. When, in the stillness of your mind, you imagine yourself living the life you desire, you are not simply daydreaming. You are performing an act of real movement on the invisible planes of consciousness. You have arrived at your destination in spirit. But to be able to remain in that new country and allow it to materialize around you, you need a passport. And the passport that allows you to enter and reside in a new state of consciousness is feeling. You cannot enter the country of wealth with a passport stamped with a scarcity visa. The border guards of universal law will deny you entry. You must, through assumption, generate the feeling, the vibration, of already being a citizen of that new country. You must feel prosperous before prosperity manifests. You must feel loved before love appears. Feeling is the signature that authenticates your new citizenship. Why is it so hard for us to leave our old state, even if it is one of suffering? For the same reason that a person might find it hard to emigrate from their native country, even if it is at war, because of the power of habit and familiarity. The old state, with its pain and limitations, is known. Its streets are familiar. Its rules are predictable. The new state, although it promises paradise, is unknown. It feels strange, uncomfortable. At first, it feels like we are pretending. The work of the conscious creator is to persist in inhabiting the new state in their imagination, with feeling until the strange becomes familiar. until the new garment of the soul feels more comfortable than the old one. The practice of the conscious traveler. The Master Creator understands that every day, and especially every night, is an opportunity to travel. He does not begin his day by reacting to the country he woke up in, but by deliberately choosing the destination he wishes to travel to. One of the most transformative practices is the nightly travel ritual. The portal of the drowsy state, as we have already seen, is the perfect boarding terminal. At that moment, the borders between states become permeable. The initiate, before sleeping, does not review the problems of his current country. He becomes a conscious traveler. He asks himself, to what state, to what reality, do I choose to travel tonight? Perhaps he chooses to travel to the state of perfect health, or to that of a harmonious relationship, or to that of creative success. Once the destination is chosen, the traveler immerses himself in it. He uses his imagination to feel the ground of that new country beneath his feet. What is the air like in the state of success? Is it light, electric, full of potential? How do the people who inhabit this state talk and move? With confidence, with calm, with purpose. What is the dominant feeling that permeates this place? Gratitude, peace, certainty. The Master does not observe this new country from a distance like a tourist. He enters it. He walks its streets. He inhabits its buildings. He speaks its language. And most importantly, he falls asleep already being a citizen of that new reality. He falls asleep feeling with his whole being the truth of his wish fulfilled. This act, repeated night after night, is a powerful act of reprogramming. You are showing your subconscious your new address. You are abandoning your old vibrational address and registering at a new one. And the law of reflection, like an infallible postal service, will begin to deliver to your new address the experiences, people, and opportunities that correspond to it. Understanding this principle leaves us with a question that is both liberating and of immense responsibility. You can no longer say, I cannot create the life I desire. All the books of all possible lives are already written. Creation is finished. Chapter 4. Observation without judgment. The first and most natural question that arises from this revelation is, how do I leave my current state if I don't like it? How do I take off this garment of anxiety, sadness, or limitation that I have worn for so long? And here, on the threshold of practice, we encounter the first and most profound paradox of the spiritual path, a truth that the logical mind finds almost impossible to accept. The law is this: you cannot abandon a state by fighting against it. Our cultural programming has taught us that change is an act of war. If you don't like something, you attack it. If you want to overcome anxiety, you fight it. If you want to eliminate poverty, you fight it. We become warriors against our own experience, believing that with enough willpower, we can defeat our inner demons and force our way into paradise. But this strategy is destined for failure. When you fight a state like anxiety, you are actually focusing all the powerful light of your attention on it. You're energizing it. And, more importantly, to be able to fight anxiety, you must be fully inhabiting the state of anxiety. You are trying to put out a fire while bathing in gasoline. Resistance to a state chains you to it with an unbreakable force. As the great psychologist Carl Jung said, what you resist persists. So what is the way? If not struggle, what is it? The answer is the paradox formulated by another pioneer of consciousness, Carl Rogers. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change. The first step to changing a state is not resistance but observation, pure, total, and without judgment. The power of the silent witness. To understand the miraculous power of observation, we must make the most important distinction in all of inner life, the difference between you and your states. You are not your sadness. You are the consciousness that is aware of sadness. You are not your anxiety. You are the space in which anxiety appears and disappears. You are not your limiting beliefs. You are the silent witness who observes the parade of beliefs. Imagine that your states, your thoughts, your emotions, your sensations, are like clouds passing through the sky. For most of your life, you have believed that you were one of those clouds, especially the dark storm clouds. You have completely identified with them, being dragged by their winds and soaked by their rain. The practice of observation without judgment is the act of ceasing to be the cloud and remembering that you are the sky. The vast, open, serene sky, which allows all clouds, both white and black, to pass through it without its fundamental nature being affected. The most violent storm cannot harm the sky. This change of identity from the cloud to the sky is not a simple poetic idea. It is a neurological event. When you are fused with an emotion, when you are your anger, the activity of your brain is concentrated in the limbic system, especially in the amygdala, your primitive and reactive brain. You are in survival mode. The moment you take a step back and observe that same anger with a detached curiosity, interesting, here is the feeling of anger. It feels like a warmth in my chest. Your brain activity shifts. It decreases in the amygdala and increases in the prefrontal cortex, the seat of your higher consciousness, of your wise CEO. This simple act of observation pulls you out of emotional hijacking and returns you to your center of power. You create a space between the stimulus and the response, and in that space, your freedom resides. The quality of this observation is the key. It is not a cold, analytical observation. It is not the judge looking at the prisoner. It is an observation imbued with a quality that Buddhists call mindfulness, which is composed of two wings, clear attention and compassionate acceptance. It is the gaze of a curious scientist merged with that of a loving mother. It is looking at your own pain, your own fear, without the need to fix it, but simply with the intention of understanding it and being with it. This loving and non-judgmental gaze is the universal solvent. The darkness of our negative states cannot survive the light of a consciousness that accepts it. The art of observation, a practical guide. The initiate in the art of self-transformation does not run from their inner self. They become an intrepid explorer of their own landscapes. The fundamental practice is that of compassionate self-inquiry. When a painful or limiting state arises in your consciousness, instead of reacting or repressing it, the master stops. They become the observer, and they begin to apply a series of techniques to dismantle the state, not through force but through the light of consciousness. The practice of naming. The first act of the observer is to name what they see. Language creates reality. When you are trapped in a state of anxiety, it is a total and overwhelming experience. But the moment you can say, mentally or aloud, I am observing the state of anxiety, a separation occurs. You are no longer fused with the state. You have turned it into an object of your observation. You have pulled it out of your center and placed it in front of you. This simple act of naming gives you back a portion of your power. The practice of somatic inquiry. Once named, the master brings their consciousness to their body. The logical mind wants to analyze the story of anxiety, the why, the when. But the story is often a never-ending loop that only feeds the emotion. The body, on the other hand, does not lie. Emotion is energy in the body. The initiate does not ask, why am I anxious? They ask, where and how do I feel this anxiety in my body right now? Is it a tightness in the chest? A knot in the throat? A fluttering in the stomach? What is its texture? Is it hot or cold? Does it vibrate or is it solid? By anchoring your attention in the pure physical sensation, without the story, you do two things. First, you radically anchor yourself in the present moment, where psychological fear cannot survive. And second, you allow the emotional energy, which was trapped, to begin to move and dissolve. The practice of allowing. And finally, the master performs the most radical and counterintuitive act of all. They do not try to change the sensation. They do not try to relax. They simply allow it to be there. It is the act of letting go of all resistance. It is saying, with your whole being, anxiety, I see you, I feel you. You have permission to be here as long as you need. You imagine that you are breathing into the sensation of contraction, not against it. You bathe it with the oxygen of your acceptance. You surround it with the space of your compassionate consciousness. And here the great magic happens. The energy of emotion is like a small child having a tantrum. The more you fight it, the more it screams. But the moment you sit next to it, you embrace it with acceptance and allow it to express its frustration. The child, feeling seen and accepted, eventually calms down. In the same way, the emotion, when embraced by your consciousness, fulfills its purpose, delivers its message, and naturally dissolves back into the silence from which it came. The path to freedom is not a war, it is a surrender, but not a surrender of defeat, but an active and conscious surrender to the healing power of your own presence. Your consciousness, when it is free of judgment, is the alchemical container in which the lead of suffering is transmuted into the gold of wisdom. To integrate this truth, the conscious creator cultivates the habit of self-observation in their daily life. A powerful practice is the state journal. At the end of the day, the initiate takes their journal not to record what they did, but what they were. They ask themselves, what garments of the soul did I wear today? How much time did I spend in the country of worry? Did I visit, even briefly, the land of gratitude? What thought seed was nurturing each of those states? This is not an exercise in self-criticism, but in self-knowledge. It is the work of the cartographer, who with patience and precision draws the map of their own patterns. Because you can only choose a new route when you know where you are. And so, the fundamental practice that precedes all deliberate change is this alchemy of attention. The question the master asks is no longer how do I get rid of this feeling, but a much wiser and more compassionate question. What is this feeling here to teach me about the story I am believing right now? Chapter 5. The Portal of Imagination. To consciously travel from a state that no longer serves you to one you deliberately choose, we must explore the faculty that acts as the engine and rudder of this journey. We must enter the workshop of the soul, the reality simulator of the brain, the portal through which the invisible becomes visible. We must talk about the fifth and most magical of powers, imagination. Like gratitude, imagination is a deeply misunderstood faculty in our rationalistic culture. We have relegated it to the corner of children, artists, and dreamers, considering it a form of escapism, an unproductive pastime that distracts us from real life. This is one of the most limiting beliefs that has been installed in us. The truth is that disciplined imagination is not an escape from reality. It is the workshop where reality is built. Every great human achievement, from the construction of the pyramids to the journey to the moon, first existed as an image held in someone's imagination. Imagination is not a fantasy. It is the creative faculty of God in us. It is the portal through which the infinite power of your subconscious takes form. An imaginary act is a fact. To understand why imagination is so incredibly powerful, we must understand a fundamental law of the mind, a truth taught by the great mystic Neville Goddard. An imaginary act, lived with feeling, is a fact on the planes of consciousness. Your subconscious mind, and by extension your nervous system, cannot clearly distinguish between a real experience and an experience imagined vividly, repeatedly, and with emotion. For it, both are real. When in your imagination you see yourself achieving great success, your brain releases the same dopamine and serotonin chemistry as if you were actually experiencing it. Your body responds, your vibration changes. You are literally rehearsing your future. You are building in your brain the neural circuits of the person you want to be before the external circumstances manifest. This is the secret of creating memories of the future. Normally, a memory is a record of a past event, but through imagination, you can deliberately create a memory of an event that has not yet happened in linear time. And when your subconscious has a clear and emotionally charged memory of an event, its only function is to work tirelessly to close the gap between that inner memory and your outer reality. It strives to reproduce in the outer world the image it has already accepted as real in the inner world. The art of traveling without moving. If all states already exist as potentialities in the universe of consciousness, then the art of manifestation becomes the art of traveling. And in the universe of consciousness, the journey is not made with the body, but with the imagination. Your imagination is the vehicle. It is the ship that allows you in this very instant to abandon the country of your current reality and travel to the country of your wish fulfilled. When, in the stillness of your mind, you imagine yourself living the life you desire, you are not simply daydreaming. You are performing an act of real movement on the invisible planes of consciousness. You have arrived at your destination in spirit. But to be able to remain in that new country and allow it to materialize around you, You need a passport, and the passport that allows you to enter and reside in a new state of consciousness is feeling. You cannot enter the country of wealth with a passport stamped with a scarcity visa. The border guards of universal law will deny you entry. You must, through assumption, generate the feeling, the vibration, of already being a citizen of that new country. You must feel prosperous before prosperity manifests. You must feel loved before love appears. Feeling is the signature that authenticates your new citizenship. The practice of the conscious creator is to persist in inhabiting the new state in their imagination, with feeling, until the strange becomes familiar, until the new garment of the soul feels more comfortable than the old one. The practice of the theater of the mind. The master creator knows that the most powerful time to travel to a new state is in the portal of sleep, in the drowsy state. Every night he doesn't just go to sleep. He enters his private theater. He doesn't review the dramas of the day that is ending. He rehearses the scene of the day that is beginning. The master's practice is not a vague daydream. It is an act of sensory script writing. Before his nightly journey, he often takes his journal and answers the director's questions. If I were already the person who lives in the state of sovereign confidence, what would I see through my eyes? What would I hear? How would my body feel? What would be the dominant emotion? He writes the sensory script of his destination. And then, in the stillness of his mind, he rehearses that scene. He lives it. He feels it. He repeats it in a short, powerful loop, not to make it happen, but to convince himself that it has already happened. He falls asleep in his new home, in his new state of being. Knowing that your imagination is the portal to any reality you choose, the question that remains floating in the silence is not whether you can reach your destination, but what destination you choose to inhabit tonight. The structure of a master imaginary act. For an imaginary act to go from a fantasy to a creative fact, it must have a structure, a discipline. A master of the mind does not daydream at random. He builds his vision with the precision of an engineer and the passion of an artist. This process has 4 phases: clarity, vividness, sensation, and persistence. Phase 1, clarity, the happy ending script. Before entering the theater of your mind, you must know what movie you are going to project. And the golden rule taught by all great masters is this: always imagine the end. Do not imagine the process, the struggle, the how you're going to get to your destination. Imagining the process often introduces doubt and complexity. Your job is to jump directly to the end, to the scene that implies your desire is already an accomplished fact. Choose the scene. Condense your desire into a single, short, and symbolic scene. If you want healing, don't imagine the treatment. Imagine the conversation where the doctor gives you the definitive all clear. If you want a new home, don't imagine the house hunting. Imagine you are standing in your new living room feeling the keys in your hand. The key act. Within that scene, there must be an action that confirms success: signing the contract, receiving the congratulatory hug, taking the first bite at the celebration dinner. This is the climax of your mental movie. Phase 2. Vividness, multisensory immersion. Once you have the script, you must become a Hollywood film director. You must make the scene so real that it tricks your subconscious. Close your eyes and enter the scene in the first person. Do not see yourself from the outside. Look through your own eyes. Activate sight. What do you see? The colors, the light, the details. Activate hearing. What do you hear? The words of congratulations, the sound of the sea. Activate touch. What do you feel on your skin? The texture of an object, a hug. Activate smell and taste. Is there any associated smell or taste? The more sensory details you add, the more real the experience will be for your nervous system. You are building a synthetic memory as powerful as a real one. Phase 3, sensation, emotional embodiment. This is the heart of the magic. An image without feeling is a movie without a soundtrack. It is emotion that gives it life. While you maintain your vivid scene, ask yourself, what is the central emotion of this fulfilled moment? Is it gratitude, relief, freedom, joy? Once you identify it, immerse yourself in it. Generate that emotion in your body. Feel it expand from your heart. This emotion is the signature, the seal that tells your subconscious, this is real. This has already happened. Phase 4, persistence, looping projection. A single projection is not enough to overwrite decades of old programming. Repeat your short, emotionally charged mental movie, over and over in a loop. The goal is for it to become so familiar that it loses its quality of fantasy and acquires the quality of a calm and certain memory. You do it until the scene feels natural. The integrated practice in life. The initiate does not limit their imaginary practice to their meditation sessions. They learn to weave it into the fabric of their day. One of the most powerful practices is the mental rehearsal for daily challenges. Before a difficult conversation, instead of worrying, visualizing failure, you take 5 minutes to visualize the conversation unfolding in perfect harmony. You feel the calm. You see the positive outcome. You are programming your inner state for success. Another practice is dressing the state. Every morning, the master chooses the garment of the soul they want to wear that day, the suit of confidence, the cloak of peace, and dedicates a few minutes to feeling themselves already dressed in it. They walk around their house feeling that confidence, that peace, as if it were a real garment. In doing this, they go out into the world not trying to be confident, but being confidence. The great journey of life is nothing more than a journey through different states of consciousness. By mastering the portal of your imagination, you stop being a drifting traveler, dragged by the currents of circumstances. You become the captain of your own ship, with the power to chart a course to any port, to any reality you choose to inhabit. Chapter 6. Embodiment through feeling. Now we come to the simplest, most direct, and yet most misunderstood law of all metaphysics. It is the master key that the great mystic Neville Goddard called the secret of creation. And the law is this: feeling is the secret. It is not our thoughts that create. It is not our images that create. It is the feelings that our thoughts and images produce in us. Feeling is the language that the subconscious understands without translation. It is the vibrational signature that the universe recognizes as a command. It is the power that seals creation and forces it to manifest. We have been conditioned by a culture that idolizes logic and intellect to believe that our feelings are secondary, that they are simple reactions to events. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Our feelings are not the effect, they are the cause. Our world does not create our feelings. Our feelings create our world. The vibrational signature of creation. To understand why feeling is so powerful, we must return to the principle of resonance. The universe is a field of energy that responds to vibration. Our state of being emits a constant frequency, and the world reflects back to us experiences that resonate with that frequency. And what determines our frequency? It is not cold, logical thought. It is our habitual emotional state. Feeling is the music of our soul. If we habitually feel lack, even if we think about wealth, our vibration is one of scarcity, and the mirror of life will reflect more lack back to us. If we habitually feel loneliness, even if we desire love, our vibration is one of isolation, and the mirror will reflect more isolation back to us. If, on the other hand, we manage to deliberately cultivate the feeling of gratitude, wholeness, and love, our vibration changes, and the mirror of life must, by law, begin to reflect a world that corresponds to that new and harmonious music. Modern science, through the study of heart-brain coherence, offers us a fascinating glimpse into this mechanism. The HeartMath Institute has scientifically demonstrated that the human heart generates the most powerful electromagnetic field in the body, much stronger than the brain's. And the quality of this field changes drastically with our emotions. Feelings of frustration, anger, or fear create a chaotic, incoherent signal. Feelings of love, appreciation, and gratitude create a signal of smooth, ordered, and coherent waves. This coherent signal from the heart not only calms the nervous system and optimizes the body's biology, it also synchronizes the brain, leading it to a state of maximum performance and creativity. When we feel from the heart, we are literally creating the optimal biological and energetic state for manifestation, the art of assumption, feeling the wish fulfilled. Here we come to the practical heart of Neville Goddard's teaching, the art of assumption. To assume is the act of deliberately feeling the emotion we would feel if our desire were already an accomplished fact. It is not thinking positive, it is feeling positive. It is not waiting for our desire, it is living in our inner world from our wish already fulfilled. This is the great paradox that stops most people. The logical mind protests. How can I feel prosperous if my bank account is empty? How can I feel loved if I am alone? That's lying to myself. And this is where we must transcend logic. You are not lying to yourself. You are being loyal to a higher reality, the reality of the world of imagination, which is the true cause of everything. You are not denying the facts of your current reality. You are simply withdrawing your attention and energy from them, stopping watering the weeds, and you are investing it in feeling the truth of your desire already realized. The art of assumption is the art of a method actor. A great actor does not pretend to be the king. He immerses himself in the role with such intensity that for a moment he becomes the king. He feels the weight of the crown, the authority in his voice, the responsibility of the kingdom, and in doing so his performance becomes magnetic, convincing. In the same way, our job is to become the method actor of our ideal. We don't try to feel rich. We ask ourselves, how would the person we wish to be feel? What bodily sensations would they have? What peace, what confidence, what freedom? And then, in the stillness of our imagination, we rehearse that role. We dress ourselves in that feeling until it feels natural. Neville taught a simple but immensely powerful technique, living from the end, not toward the end. We do not imagine the path to our goal. We imagine a simple scene that would take place after our goal has already been achieved, and we feel it as real. If we desire a new house, we do not imagine the process of looking for it or applying for the loan. We imagine a simple scene. We are standing in the living room of our new house, touching a piece of furniture, and we say to a loved one, "Isn't it wonderful? We are home now." And we feel the emotion of that moment. Relief, joy, the feeling of home. That feeling, that emotion is the secret. It is the impregnation. It is the command that our obedient mind accepts without question. The structure of a master imaginary act. For an imaginary act to go from a fantasy to a creative fact, it must have a structure, a discipline. A master of the mind does not daydream at random. He builds his vision with the precision of an engineer and the passion of an artist. This process has 4 phases: clarity, vividness, sensation, and persistence. Phase 1, clarity, the happy ending script. Before entering the theater of your mind, you must know what movie you are going to project. And the golden rule, taught by all great masters, is this: always imagine the end. Do not imagine the process, the struggle, how you are going to get to your destination. Imagining the process often introduces doubt and complexity. Your job is to jump directly to the end, to the scene that implies your desire is already an accomplished fact. Choose the scene. Condense your desire into a single, short, and symbolic scene. If you desire healing, don't imagine the treatment. Imagine the conversation where the doctor gives you the definitive all clear. If you desire a new home, don't imagine the house hunting. Imagine that you are standing in your new living room feeling the keys in your hand. The key act. Within that scene, there must be an action that confirms success: signing the contract, receiving the congratulatory hug, taking the first bite at the celebration dinner. This is the climax of your mental movie. Phase 2. Vividness, multisensory immersion. Once you have the script, you must become a Hollywood film director. You must make the scene so real that it tricks your subconscious. Close your eyes and enter the scene in the first person. Do not see yourself from the outside. Look through your own eyes. Activate sight. What do you see? The colors, the light, the details. Activate hearing. What do you hear? The words of congratulation, the sound of the sea. Activate touch. What do you feel on your skin? The texture of an object, a hug? Activate smell and taste. Is there any associated smell or taste? The more sensory details you add, the more real the experience will become for your nervous system. You are building a synthetic memory as powerful as a real one. Phase 3, sensation, emotional embodiment. This is the heart of the magic. An image without feeling is a movie without a soundtrack. It is emotion that gives it life. While you maintain your vivid scene, ask yourself, what is the central emotion of this fulfilled moment? Is it gratitude, relief, freedom, joy, peace? Once you identify it, immerse yourself in it. Generate that emotion in your body. Feel it expand from your heart. This emotion is the signature, the seal that tells your subconscious, this is real, this has already happened. Phase 4, persistence, looping projection. A single projection is not enough to overwrite decades of old programming. Repeat your short, emotionally charged mental movie, over and over in a loop. The goal is for it to become so familiar, so natural, that it loses its quality of fantasy and acquires the quality of a calm and certain memory. You do it until the scene feels natural. The integrated practice in life. The initiate does not limit his imaginary practice to his meditation sessions. He learns to weave it into the fabric of his day. One of the most powerful practices is the mental rehearsal for daily challenges. Before a difficult conversation, instead of worrying, visualizing failure, you take 5 minutes to visualize the conversation unfolding in perfect harmony. You feel the calm. You see the positive outcome. You are programming your inner state for success. Another practice is dressing the state. Every morning, the master chooses the garment of the soul he wants to wear that day, the suit of confidence, the cloak of peace, and dedicates a few minutes to feeling himself already dressed in it. He walks around his house feeling that confidence, that peace, as if it were a real garment. In doing this, he goes out into the world not trying to be confident, but being confidence. The great journey of life is nothing more than a journey through different states of consciousness. By mastering the portal of your imagination, you stop being a drifting traveler, dragged by the currents of circumstances. You become the captain of your own ship, with the power to chart a course to any port, to any reality you choose to inhabit. Chapter 7. Persistence in the new home. You have crossed the threshold. In the silent sanctuary of your imagination, you have traveled to the state of your wish fulfilled. You have dressed in the garment of the soul of the person you choose to be, and, through the power of feeling, you have anchored that new reality in your being. You have tasted the secret. You have felt the truth of your power, and then you open your eyes. And the world, your old world, is still there. The mirror of your reality, which is a reflection of your dominant past, has not yet had time to catch up with your new inner decision. The bank account shows the same number. The empty chair at your table is still empty. The symptom in your body is still felt. And it is at this moment, in the apparent gap between your transformed inner world and your unchanged outer world, that the most important battle of all is fought. It is the test of faith. It is the challenge of persistence. We now come to the discipline that separates the dreamer from the creator, the amateur from the master. Persistence in the art of conscious creation is not the brute force of continuing to do things on the outside. It is the unwavering loyalty to your inner vision, despite all the contrary evidence that your 5 senses present to you. Neville Goddard referred to this practice with a simple but immensely powerful term, the mental diet. A mental diet is not about controlling every passing thought, an impossible task that only generates anxiety. It is about a conscious and sovereign choice. Once you have assumed your new state, you refuse to feed any thought or feeling that contradicts the reality of your wish fulfilled. Imagine you have just planted the seed of a majestic oak tree in your garden. You go out the next day and see nothing but dirt. Do you panic? Do you shout, "This isn't working," and dig up the seed? No. A wise gardener knows that growth is happening beneath the surface, in the dark, out of sight. His job is not to force the sprout, but to protect the soil. He pulls out the weeds that try to steal nutrients from the seed. He makes sure it receives water and sun, and he waits with patient faith, knowing that the law of growth is infallible. Your mind is that garden, your assumed desire is the seed, and your old thought patterns, doubt, worry, fear, are the weeds. A mental diet is the act of becoming the guardian of that sacred soil. The physics of persistence. To understand why persistence is so crucial, we must return to neuroscience. As we have seen, every time you have a thought or a feeling, you activate a neural network. Your old states of scarcity or loneliness are 8-lane neural highways paved by decades of mental traffic. When you assume your new state in your imagination, you are beginning to blaze a new trail in the jungle. The first time it's difficult, the weeds resist, but every time you return to that new state, to that feeling of your wish fulfilled, It's as if you're hacking away at the trail with a machete, making it a little wider, a little clearer. Persistence is the act of walking that new trail over and over again until it becomes the new highway, until it becomes easier and more automatic to think from abundance than from scarcity. At the same time, every time you refuse to entertain a thought from the old state, you are stopping the use of the old highway. And by the law of use it or lose it, that old neural connection, by not receiving energy, begins to weaken. The jungle begins to reclaim the asphalt. The moment of external manifestation occurs at the tipping point, when the new path has become the new highway, when the new state feels more natural, more real than the old one. At that moment, your dominant vibration has permanently changed, and the mirror of the world has no choice but to reflect your new home. The art of the mental diet, the Guardian's techniques. A mental diet is not a violent repression. Repression is the act of pushing a thought into the shadow, which often gives it more power. A mental diet is an act of conscious and loving discipline. Technique 1, Sovereign Indifference. Your most powerful weapon against negative thoughts is not fighting, it is indifference. When a thought of doubt or fear, a fact of your current reality, knocks on the door of your consciousness, do not try to argue with it. Do not try to reason. By doing so, you are giving it your energy. Instead, treat it like an unwelcome street vendor. Look at it, acknowledge it without emotion, and simply close the door. Withdraw your attention from it. And immediately and deliberately, place your attention back on the feeling of your wish fulfilled. The thought of fear says, "Look, the bill has arrived." Your response is not panic, but an inner calm that says, "Thank you for the information," while you feel the serene gratitude of the person who knows that all their resources are unlimited. You are training your mind to stop being a reactive leaf and become an unmovable rock of faith. Technique 2, the art of revision. This is one of Neville Goddard's most profound and transformative techniques. Sometimes, despite our best efforts, the day hits us. We have an argument. We receive bad news. We make a mistake. At the end of the day, we feel out of our desired state. Revision is the act of entering your mental editing workshop and rewriting the scene. Before sleeping, in your drowsy state, review the events of the day. Identify the scene that disturbed you. Now in your imagination, rewrite it and replay it the way you would have liked it to happen. If you had an argument, rewrite it as a harmonious and understanding conversation. If you received bad news, rewrite it by receiving the news you desired. If you made a mistake, rewrite it by acting with perfect wisdom and competence. Live this revised scene with all the feeling you can muster, over and over, until it feels like the true memory. What does this do? On a subconscious level, you are replacing a memory of failure with one of success. You are cleansing the negative energy of the day, and you go to sleep having planted a seed of harmony. You cannot change the factual past, but you can change its impact on your present, ensuring that it does not become a poisonous seed for your future. Technique 3, the fast from external evidence. During the period of persistence, you must put your 5 senses on a fast. You must stop constantly looking to the external world for proof that your manifestation is arriving. This anxious search for signs is, in itself, an act of doubt. It is the vibration of, "It hasn't arrived yet." It is like the gardener who digs up the seed. Your job is to find the evidence not outside, but inside. The only proof you need is the quality of your feeling. If you can, at will, enter the feeling of your wish fulfilled, you have found the only evidence that matters. That is the true reality. The external world is just a shadow that takes a little while to catch up. The state of Sabbath, the Creator's rest. How long should you persist in your mental diet? The answer is, until it no longer feels like an effort. Until the new state becomes your natural state, your home. A time comes when you no longer have to try to feel prosperous or loved. You simply feel that way. The old state of scarcity or loneliness begins to feel strange, alien, like a suit that no longer fits you. This is the moment of quiet certainty. It is a state of peace and inner knowing. You have so deeply impregnated your subconscious with the new belief that manifestation is now inevitable. Neville called this state the Sabbath. It is the 7th day of creation, the day of rest. You have completed your creative work in the imagination, And now you rest in faith, with a quiet and absolute confidence, knowing that what you have created in the invisible world must by law appear in the visible world. There is nothing more to do. Just observe, with serene gratitude, as your new reality unfolds before you. Persistence is not a struggle. It is a loyalty. It is being faithful to your soul's vision, even when the armies of doubt and the evidence of the senses try to convince you to give up. It is the silent power of holding a note in the midst of a cacophony, until the entire orchestra of the universe is forced to tune itself to your new song. Chapter 8: The State of Wealth. Our culture has taught us the great illusion of pursuit. We pursue money, we pursue success, we pursue security. This very act of pursuing is born from a fundamental belief in separation and lack. It implies that wealth is something external to us, something that flees from us and that we must catch with effort and struggle. And as long as we operate from this consciousness of pursuit, we are emitting the vibration of lack. And the law of reflection, in its perfect justice, gives us more of that same experience, that of a never-ending chase. The master creator does not pursue wealth. He stops, he takes a step back, and he dedicates himself to the only work that matters, cultivating and embodying in his own being the state of wealth. Money in the external world is not the goal, it is the reflection. It is the shadow that the substance of your consciousness projects. Trying to get money by changing your external actions without changing your internal state is like trying to catch a shadow. No matter how fast you run, it will always move with you. But when you turn around and focus on the light that projects the shadow, your own state of being, and you make that light brighter, the shadow transforms naturally and effortlessly. The anatomy of the state of wealth. To be able to inhabit the state of wealth, we must first understand its anatomy. It is not simply thinking about being rich. It is a complete configuration of your being, a garment of the soul woven with specific beliefs, feelings, and imaginary scenes. The central feeling, unconditional security. The core of the state of wealth is not excitement or greed. It is a deep and serene feeling of security. It is the calm confidence that all your needs are and always will be met. It is a feeling of sufficiency, of knowing that you live in an abundant universe and that you are a beloved child of that abundance. It is the peace that is born from trust, not from the numbers in a bank account. One person can have millions and live in the state of scarcity, terrified by the idea of losing it. And another can have little, but inhabit the state of wealth, with an unshakable faith in the flow of life. Dominant beliefs. This feeling of security is supported by a system of empowering beliefs that run on autopilot. The universe is an inexhaustible source of abundance, and I am an open channel to receive it. Money is energy, and it flows to me easily, constantly, and abundantly. My worth as a being is intrinsic. I deserve all prosperity and joy. I am here to create immense value, and prosperity is the natural reflection of my service. I celebrate the success of others, because it is proof of the abundance available to everyone. Imaginary scenes. The person who inhabits the state of wealth does not obsess over fantasies of yachts and mansions, although they may enjoy them. Their habitual imaginary scenes are much more subtle and powerful. They are scenes of freedom, ease, and generosity. The scene of paying all the month's bills, not with anxiety but with a smile and a feeling of gratitude for the services received. The scene of walking through a store, seeing something a loved one likes and buying it without looking at the price, for the simple pleasure of giving. The scene of making a generous donation to a cause you believe in, feeling the joy of contributing. The scene of choosing a job or project based on passion and purpose, not on the need to make a living. This is the garment of the soul that we must learn to weave and to wear, the art of occupying the state. The process of moving from the state of scarcity to that of wealth is an act of conscious and persistent assumption. The master creator does not wait for his bank account to change to feel rich. He performs an act of sovereign assumption. In the theater of his mind, he dresses in the millionaire's garment, not with the arrogance of the ego, but with the calm generosity and security of one for whom abundance is normal, natural, and expected. One of the most transformative practices, as we have already introduced it, is that of the sensory rehearsal. The initiate knows that the door to feeling is the body. To feel wealth, he doesn't just think about it, he embodies it. In the stillness of his mind, he asks himself, how would a person who has no financial worries sit in this chair? How would they walk down the street? What would the tone of their voice be like? And then, he adopts that physiology. He feels how the calm of security relaxes his shoulders. He feels how confidence straightens his back. He moves through the world as if he were already the prosperous person he has decided to be. And crucially, he practices a strict mental diet of wealth. This is the art of persistence. Once the state has been assumed, the master becomes a relentless guardian of his consciousness. He refuses to entertain thoughts, conversations, or emotions that contradict his new home. When he sees a bill, instead of feeling the contraction of fear, he pauses, he breathes, and he declares, although my senses show me this, I choose to remain in my state of abundance. I recognize this as the last shadow of the old program dissolving. The infinite intelligence within me knows the solution and will provide it. He refuses to talk about the crisis. He refuses to complain. When he talks about his finances, he talks only from the perspective of his wish fulfilled. When he faces an expense, he transforms the limiting question, can I afford it, into the expansive question, how can I afford it, or do I choose to invest my energy and resources in this? Each of these acts is a vow of loyalty to the new state. Action from the state of wealth. When you consistently inhabit the state of wealth, your actions in the external world change naturally, without effort. Your risk tolerance changes. By not operating from the fear of losing, you are able to see and take opportunities that the scarcity mindset, paralyzed by fear, would never consider. Your focus changes. You stop focusing on how can I make money, and you start focusing on how can I create the maximum possible value. You understand that money is a byproduct of service, creativity, and excellence. You become obsessed with giving, knowing that receiving is inevitable. Your energy changes. You become magnetic. People are drawn to your calm, your confidence, and your generosity of spirit. Opportunities are not something you have to chase. They are something you attract naturally. The world, the great mirror, begins to reflect your new and prosperous identity. Not because you forced it, but because you have become the person to whom prosperity comes naturally. Demolishing the old shack of scarcity. Before you can fully inhabit your new home of abundance, you must first demolish the old shack of scarcity. It is not enough to ignore it. You must understand its architecture, dismantle its foundations, and remove its rubble from your mental ground. The state of scarcity is not a simple bad habit. It is a deeply rooted survival strategy. Your primitive brain, in its infinite but outdated wisdom, believes that worrying about a lack of resources is what keeps you alive. For it, the calm of abundance is dangerous. It is an invitation to complacency, to be surprised by the next winter or the next predator. Therefore, to free yourself, you must not fight this state, but love it until it surrenders. You must, with compassion, demonstrate to your inner guardian that a higher form of security exists. The practice for dismantling this state is a three-step process: observe, question, and replace. Step 1. Compassionate observation. The first step is to apply the power of the silent witness. For the next week, your mission is not to change anything, but to observe your state of scarcity like a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. Observe your thoughts. What are the exact stories your mind tells about money? If I spend this, I won't have enough for that. I have to cling to this job I hate because it's secure. Write them down. Observe your emotions. What is the emotional soundtrack of your financial life? Is it anxiety, worry, envy, guilt when spending? Feel these emotions in your body without judgment. Observe your actions. How does this state translate into your behavior? Do you hoard things you don't need just in case? Do you panic when checking your bank account? Do you avoid talking about money? At the end of the week, read your journal. You will see, perhaps for the first time, the complete architecture of your prison. You will see that it is not a reality, but a pattern. Step 2. Socratic questioning. Now that you have observed the pattern, you will use the light of your conscious mind to question its validity. Take the strongest root belief from your state of scarcity and subject it to a Socratic interrogation in your journal. Belief: it's very difficult to make money. Interrogation: Is this an absolute universal truth? No. Do I know anyone for whom making money seems easy and joyful? Yes. What do those people believe and feel differently from me? Was there ever a moment in my life, no matter how small, when money came to me with ease? Is it possible that difficult is not a quality of money, but the result of my belief and my focus? This questioning process does not seek to convince you with logic, but to create cracks in the solid wall of your old belief. It shows your subconscious that other possibilities exist. Step 3. Deliberate replacement. You cannot simply leave a void. You must actively replace the old state with the new one. This is where we apply the techniques of imagination and assumption in a ritualized way. The Daily Ritual of Wealth Embodiment, your practical workshop. This is your daily 15-minute ritual to dress in your new garment of the soul. Silence, 5 minutes. Start with calm. Sit in silence and focus on your breath. Your goal is to calm the waters of the conscious mind so you can dive into the depths of the subconscious. Demolition, 2 minutes. Bring your main limiting belief about wealth to your mind. Look at it, recognize it, and then, with an act of imagination, visualize how it dissolves, how it crumbles into dust and is carried away by the wind. Declare internally, I now release and dissolve any belief of scarcity and limitation. It no longer serves me. Construction, 8 minutes. Now enter your mental theater and project your final movie of abundance. Don't watch it as a spectator. Feel it in the first person. Immerse yourself in the scene with all your senses. Feel the texture of the keys to your new house. Hear your family's laughter on that dream vacation. But above all, immerse yourself in the central emotion. Feel the peace. Feel the freedom. Feel the gratitude. Bathe in that feeling. This feeling is the magnet. Perform this ritual every day, preferably at night before sleeping, with unshakable faith and persistence. You are not faking it. You are rehearsing. You are building the neural circuits of your new reality. Navigating the transition. What happens when the mirror lies? Inevitably, you will face the greatest challenge of all, the temporary delay of the reflection. You begin to inhabit your new state of inner wealth. You feel prosperous, secure, grateful. And then you open your eyes, and the mirror of your external reality shows you an unexpected bill. A business opportunity falls through, a bank account that remains the same. This is the moment of the great test. It is the moment when your logical mind will shout, "This doesn't work, it's a lie, look at reality." In this moment, you must make the most important decision of the conscious creator. What are you going to give more importance to? The shadow of the past, your current external reality, which is a reflection of your old beliefs, or the light of your present, your new inner state, which is the cause of your new future reality? The initiate knows that the mirror has a delay. Like an echo, it takes time to return the new sound you are emitting. Your only job during this transition period is to maintain faith in the invisible. It is to be loyal to your new inner reality, despite appearances. To achieve this, the master uses the strict mental diet. He refuses to be hypnotized by the reflection of the past. When the unexpected bill arrives, instead of falling into the old state of fear, he pauses. He breathes, and he declares, "Although my senses show me this, I choose to remain in my state of abundance. I recognize this as the last shadow of the old program dissolving. The infinite intelligence in me knows the solution and will provide it." He refuses to talk about the crisis. He refuses to complain. When he talks about his finances, he talks only from the perspective of his wish fulfilled. This is the art of dying to the evidence of the senses and living in the faith of your imaginary world, until the imaginary world solidifies as your new reality. Your prosperity is not determined by your boss, your government, or the economy. It is determined solely and exclusively by the state of consciousness you choose to inhabit. When you stop chasing wealth and become the embodiment of it, wealth has no choice but to chase you. Chapter 9. The State of Love. The search for love is the great odyssey of the soul. But most of us embark on this journey with the wrong map, a map that guarantees frustration and suffering. It is the map of lack. This map tells us that love is something out there, something we must find, earn, deserve, or at times even beg for. It teaches us to see ourselves as incomplete beings, as halves of a whole desperately searching for our other half to at last feel whole. And so, we go out into the world as emotional beggars, with the bowl of our heart empty, hoping that another person will come and fill it. This is the root of all relational drama. When you operate from the state of lack, your relationships become transactions. You are not looking for a companion, you are looking for a savior. You are not looking to share your fullness, you are looking to extract the fullness from the other. This energy of need, this vibration of emptiness, is a magnet for relationships that reflect exactly that. More emptiness, more need, more conditions. The Master Creator understands that this map is an illusion. He knows that love is not a destination you arrive at. It is the home from which you depart. The law of reflection is implacable. You cannot find love in the mirror of the world that you have not first cultivated in the garden of your own being. To attract harmonious and fulfilling relationships, you must first become the living embodiment of that harmony and fullness. You must learn to inhabit the state of love. The anatomy of the state of love. The state of love is not the feverish excitement of romantic infatuation. It is something much deeper, more stable, and more powerful. It is a state of consciousness, a garment of the soul woven with 3 golden threads. 1. The thread of self-love, unconditional acceptance. This is the foundation. Self-love is not arrogance. It is the total cessation of inner war. It is the act of looking at yourself in the mirror, with all your lights and all your shadows, and saying from the bottom of your being, I accept you. You are worthy of love, not for what you do, but simply because you are. When you dress in the garment of self-love, you stop needing external validation. You stop begging for others' appreciation because you have given it to yourself. You become a source, not a sink. 2. The thread of wholeness, the feeling of being complete. The person who inhabits the state of love knows that they are not a half orange, they are a whole orange. Their happiness, their peace, and their sense of worth do not depend on the presence or absence of a partner. They feel complete and happy on their own. A relationship is not something they need to survive, but something they choose to share the abundance of their being. This energy of wholeness is incredibly magnetic. 3. The thread of connection, the recognition of unity. Finally, the state of love transcends the self. It is the recognition that the same consciousness, the same spark of life that animates you, animates everyone else. It is seeing beyond the mask of personality and recognizing the being in the other. This dissolves judgment and criticism and replaces them with compassion and understanding. When you weave these 3 threads into the garment of your soul, your vibration changes completely. You stop emitting the frequency of need and begin to emit the serene and magnetic frequency of love. And the universe, in its perfect correspondence, must begin to reflect that new vibration in your relationships. The art of occupying the state of love. The process of inhabiting this state is an act of conscious assumption. You don't wait for love to arrive to feel loved. You reverse the order. You generate the feeling of love within you, and that feeling becomes the magnet that attracts its reflection in the world. The Master Creator, in the stillness of his imagination, asks himself, how would the person who already lives in a deep and true love relationship feel? He does not focus on the face of a specific person. He focuses on the feeling. How would it feel to wake up in the morning with a feeling of peace and companionship? How would it feel to have a conversation where you feel completely seen and accepted? How would it feel to share a laugh, the warmth of a hug, the security of unshakable trust? The initiate takes these feelings and dresses in them. He walks through his day already feeling loved, already whole, already connected. Not as a fantasy, but as a rehearsal. He is building the mold within himself that the universe will be forced to fill. Action from the state of love. When you consistently inhabit the state of love, your actions in the world of relationships change naturally. You stop searching and start radiating. Your focus is no longer on finding someone, but on being someone who is a source of love, joy, and stability. You focus on your own growth, your passions, your purpose. And by doing this, you become irresistibly attractive, not for what you do to impress, but for the authenticity of your being. Your boundaries become clear. From a place of self-love, you stop tolerating behaviors that are not up to your own respect. You say no calmly and without guilt. You walk away from toxic relationships, not from anger, but from the wise decision to protect your peace. You attract by resonance. You stop trying to fit into the world of others. You create your own world, a world of authenticity and high vibration, and the people who are destined to be in your life, those who resonate with your true frequency, are attracted to you naturally and effortlessly, like ships that are guided by the light of a lighthouse. Your love life is not a lottery, it is a reflection. And to change the reflection, you must first fall in love with the original face, yours. Before we can fully inhabit our new home of love, we must first demolish the old and dilapidated shack of lack. It is not enough to ignore it. We must understand its architecture, dismantle its foundations, and remove its rubble from our mental ground. The state of affective lack is not a simple bad habit, it is a deeply rooted survival strategy. Our primitive brain, in its infinite but outdated wisdom, believes that the need for another is fundamental for survival. The fear of loneliness, of abandonment, is one of the most primary fears. Therefore, to free ourselves, we must not fight this state, but love it until it surrenders. We must, with compassion, demonstrate to our inner guardian that true security does not reside in dependence on another, but in the wholeness of one's own being. The practice for dismantling this state is a three-step process. Observe, question, and replace. Step 1. Compassionate observation. The first step is to apply the power of the silent witness. For the next week, the mission is not to change anything, but to observe the state of lack like a scientist studying a fascinating phenomenon. Observe the thoughts. What are the exact stories the mind tells about love? No one will ever love me. If only I were more tall, thin, rich, etc., then I would find love. I have to sacrifice myself to maintain this relationship. Write them down. To observe the emotions. What is the emotional soundtrack of your love life? Is it the anxiety of waiting, the fear of rejection, the bitterness of resentment, jealousy? Feel these emotions in your body without judgment. Observe the actions. How does this state translate into your behavior? Do you compulsively check your phone waiting for a message? Do you accept disrespectful behavior for fear of being alone? Do you try to control or manipulate your partner? At the end of the week, upon reading the journal, one will see, perhaps for the first time, the complete architecture of the prison. One will see that it is not a reality, but a pattern. Step 2. Socratic questioning. Now that the pattern has been observed, one uses the light of the conscious mind to question its validity. One takes the strongest root belief from the state of lack and subjects it to a Socratic interrogation in the journal. Belief: I need someone to complete me. Interrogation: is this an absolute universal truth? No. Do I know anyone who seems complete and happy on their own, with or without a partner? Yes. What do those people believe and feel differently? Was there ever a moment in my life, no matter how small, when I felt complete and happy being alone? Is it possible that the feeling of being incomplete is not a fact, but the result of this belief I have practiced for so long? This questioning process does not seek to convince with logic, but to create cracks in the solid wall of the old belief. It shows the subconscious that other possibilities exist. Step 3. Deliberate replacement. One cannot simply leave a void. One must actively replace the old state with the new. This is where we apply the techniques of imagination and assumption in a ritualized way. The daily ritual of love embodiment, your practical workshop. This is your daily 15-minute ritual to dress in your new garment of the soul. Silence, 5 minutes. Start with calm. Sitting in silence, focusing on the breath. The goal is to calm the waters of the conscious mind so one can dive into the depths of the subconscious. Demolition, 2 minutes. Bring the main limiting belief about love to mind. Look at it, acknowledge it, and then, with an act of imagination, visualize how it dissolves, how it crumbles into dust and is carried away by the wind. Declare internally, I now release and dissolve any belief of lack or unworthiness. It no longer serves me. Construction, 8 minutes. Now one enters the mental theater and projects the final movie of love. One does not watch as a spectator. One feels in the first person. One immerses oneself in the scene with all the senses. One feels the texture of the partner's hand. One hears their laughter. But above all, one immerses oneself in the central emotion. One feels the peace. One feels the security. One feels the joy. One bathes in that feeling. This feeling is the magnet. One performs this ritual every day, preferably at night before sleeping, with unshakable faith and persistence. One is not faking it. One is rehearsing. One is building the neural circuits of the new reality. Navigating the transition. What happens when the mirror lies? Inevitably, one will face the greatest challenge of all, the temporary delay of the reflection. One begins to inhabit the new state of inner love. One feels whole, worthy, grateful, and then one opens one's eyes, and the mirror of external reality shows a lonely Friday night. A conflict with the current partner, a date that doesn't work out. This is the moment of the great test. It is the moment when the logical mind will shout, "This isn't working, it's a lie, look at reality." In this moment, one must make the most important decision of the conscious creator. What will one give more importance to? The shadow of the past, the current external reality which is a reflection of old beliefs, or the light of the present, the new inner state which is the cause of the new future reality? The initiate knows that the mirror has a delay. Like an echo, it takes time to return the new sound that is being emitted. The only job during this transition period is to maintain faith in the invisible. It is to be loyal to the new inner reality, despite appearances. To achieve this, the master uses the strict mental diet. One refuses to be hypnotized by the reflection of the past. When a lonely Friday night arrives, instead of falling into the old state of poor me, one pauses, one breathes, and one declares, "Although my senses show me this, I choose to remain in my state of wholeness. I recognize this as an opportunity to enjoy my own company, a gift from the universe. I am in a wonderful relationship with myself." One refuses to talk about the love crisis. One refuses to complain. When one talks about one's relationships, one talks only from the perspective of one's wish fulfilled. This is the art of dying to the evidence of the senses and living in the faith of the imaginary world, until the imaginary world solidifies as the new reality. Your prosperity is not determined by your boss, your government, or the economy. It is determined solely and exclusively by the state of consciousness you choose to inhabit. When you stop chasing wealth and become the embodiment of it, wealth has no choice but to chase you. Chapter 10. The state of being as the final destination. We have reached the culmination of the journey, the state that is at once the origin and the destination. It is the moment when you stop being a traveler who moves between different countries of consciousness, and you realize that you are the map, the traveler, and the territory all in one. Welcome to the state of being as the final destination. Throughout this audiobook, we have used the metaphor of changing states. It is a useful metaphor for the learner because it implies an action, a movement from point A, the state of scarcity, to point B, the state of wealth. But in mastery, this metaphor dissolves, because the ultimate truth is that there is nowhere to go. There is nothing to achieve. There is no you here and a state of happiness over there. The great revelation, the one that puts an end to all searching forever, is that you don't enter a state. You are the state. Your consciousness is not something that has states, it is the state itself. The question that defines the final awakening is not how do I get to my desired state, but what am I fundamentally, beneath all the stories, all the garments, all the fleeting states? The answer is simple, immutable, and has been the same on the lips of all the sages of history. You are pure consciousness. You are the I am. You are the silent space, the immutable witness in which all states, joy, sadness, wealth, poverty, appear and disappear like clouds in the sky. When you identify with the cloud, I am sad, I am poor, you suffer. You are trapped in a temporary and limited form. When you remember your identity as the sky, I am the space in which sadness appears, you are free. The state of being as the final destination is not a new and glorious suit that you put on. It is the act of taking off all suits forever and resting at last in your own magnificent nakedness. It is the state of being simply you, in your purest form, before the world told you who you were supposed to be. The anatomy of arrival. What does it feel like to inhabit this state? It is not a state of constant euphoria or spiritual fireworks. It is much more subtle, much deeper, and infinitely more sustainable. It is characterized by several unmistakable qualities. 1. The peace that underlies everything. The fundamental quality is a deep and unshakable peace. It is not the peace that comes from everything going well. It is the peace that remains even when everything seems to go wrong. It is the calm of the deep ocean, which is not affected by the storm raging on the surface. You no longer seek peace in external circumstances. You have realized that you are the peace in which all circumstances occur. This discovery makes you invulnerable, not to life's blows, but to the suffering that those blows used to cause. 2. The end of judgment. From this state, the need to judge yourself, others, situations simply vanishes. Judgment is born from the belief in separation and imperfection. When you know, not as an idea, but as a lived experience, that everything is an expression of the same unique consciousness, whom could you judge? Criticism is transformed into compassion. Irritation becomes understanding. You see the dance of life with all its lights and shadows, not as a moral drama but as a divine work of art, and you find beauty even in its most tragic parts. 3. Effortless action, Wu Wei. The struggle ceases. You no longer act from the anxiety of the ego that needs to make things happen. Your actions begin to arise from a place of deep stillness and intuition. It is the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, action without action. You find yourself doing the right thing at the right time, without a separate you that is planning everything. You become a channel for the universe's intelligence to act through you. Life stops being a series of problems to be solved and becomes a creative flow in which you participate with effortless grace. 4. Abundance as evidence of being. Your relationship with manifestation is completely reversed. You no longer use techniques to get things to feel whole. Instead, you dwell in your natural wholeness, and things, money, opportunities, relationships appear as a natural and effortless reflection of that state. Manifestation stops being a goal and becomes the constant evidence of your alignment. It is like the sun. The sun does not try to radiate light and heat. It is its nature, and as a result of being what it is, planets revolve around it, and life flourishes. When you inhabit your true self, the universe has no choice but to revolve around you and flourish in your wake. The last garment, the cloak of nothingness. Arriving at this state requires one final act of letting go. The seeker on their journey often becomes attached to the spiritual garments themselves. They identify with the suit of, I am a conscious person, I am a powerful manifester, I am a healer. These are the last and most subtle golden cages of the ego. The final destination asks you to take off even these beautiful suits. It asks you to strip completely and dress in the only garment that is totally free, the cloak of nothingness. Being nothing in this sense is not annihilation, it is being no-thing. It is letting go of all definitions, all labels, all identities, and resting in the pure mystery of being simply consciousness. From this place of nothing, you become the potential to be everything. You are free to put on any suit, to play any role in the game of life, but with a fundamental difference. You now know that it is a game, and you play it with a lightness, a joy, and a freedom that were previously impossible. The end of the search. The paradox is that the only way to reach your final destination is to realize that you never left it. The only way to find what you were looking for is to stop searching. The search, no matter how noble it was based on the mistaken premise that you were separate from your good. The end of the search is the recognition that you are the good you were looking for. You are the peace. You are the love. You are the abundance. They are not things you acquire. They are facets of your own essence that you choose to reveal. The journey has not been to get to a new place. It has been a journey to remember the place you have always been. You have not built anything new. You have simply cleared away the rubble of false beliefs that covered the magnificence of your true self. When you inhabit this state, the need to practice techniques dissolves. You no longer need to do your nightly visualization because you live in a state of constant vision. You no longer need to repeat affirmations of abundance because your whole being has become a vibration of abundance. The practice has become your presence. Life is a divine game, Lila. When you have emptied yourself of all fixed identity, when you feel comfortable in the glorious nothingness of your pure self, life ceases to be a problem to be solved, a battle to be won, or a school in which to suffer. It is revealed in its true nature. It is a game. In the Hindu tradition, this concept is called Lila, the divine play. The idea is that universal consciousness did not create the universe out of a need or a serious purpose, but out of the pure joy of self-expression, in the same way that a child plays. It is a dance of creation and destruction, of hiding and seeking, motivated by the joy of the game itself. The person who has reached the final destination, the state of being, becomes a conscious player of this game. He stops taking life with deadly seriousness. He understands that the roles he plays, the father, the professional, the friend, are just that, roles in a great cosmic play. This does not mean he becomes irresponsible or nihilistic. On the contrary, he becomes the best of actors. He plays each of his roles with total presence, excellence, and commitment. But internally, he maintains a slight smile, a lightness, a playful detachment. He knows that he is not the character. When the character wins, he celebrates with genuine joy, but he does not cling to the victory because he knows it is part of the game. When the character loses, he feels the emotion of the loss, but he does not suffer because he knows it is part of the game. This perspective frees him from the greatest weight of all, the tyranny of personal importance. The ego believes that every event is of monumental importance. The self sees the dance of life with the perspective of the universe, and in that vastness it finds the freedom to play with audacity, to love without fear, and to create without the paralysis of perfectionism. The silence that speaks, action from stillness. From this state of being, the very nature of action is transformed. Actions no longer arise from an anxious thought process, from a list of pros and cons, from a strategic calculation of the ego. The right actions begin to emerge from stillness. You become a channel for the universe's intelligence to act through you. You stop being the one who rows frantically against the current, and you become the current itself. This is the state of effortless action. The question, "What should I do?" no longer exists. The only question that remains is, "What wants to be done through me now?" And the answer does not come as a thought, but as an intuitive impulse, an action that feels so natural and obvious that it requires no deliberation. It is the action that comes from the flow. In this state, the concept of personal will dissolves into universal will. Your desire and the desire of the universe become one. You no longer try to impose your small plan on reality. You become a co-creative partner in the cosmic symphony. Life stops being a series of obstacles to be overcome and becomes a series of opportunities for dancing. The final practice, the art of being. How do you live in this state? The final practice of the master is not a technique that is performed at a specific time. It is a constant remembrance that is woven into the tapestry of every moment. It is the art of being. The practice is the act of, in the midst of activity, remembering the silence. In the midst of conversation, remembering the space. In the midst of playing the character, remembering the silent actor who observes it all. The initiate no longer needs a journal to audit their state, because their state has become their own constant feedback loop. The question that guides them is no longer, "How do I get what I want?" but a much simpler and deeper one. What action in this precise instant is the most authentic expression of the being that I know I am? Sometimes the answer is a bold action. Often it is silence. Sometimes it is speaking. Often it is listening. The ultimate goal of this entire journey, the culmination of mastery, is not to perfect the techniques to change states. It is to reach a point where you no longer need them, because you have become permanently the state you once longed for. You no longer have to dress in the garment of peace or abundance. You have realized that you are the fabric from which all garments are made. We started as subjects in a kingdom that seemed to be governed by chance and circumstances, and along this path we have carried out a revolution. We have discovered that the power that shapes worlds is not out there. It resides in the silent center of our own being. We learned that it is not our actions but our state of being that is the true cause of our reality. We explored the vast wardrobe of the soul, discovering that every possible future already exists as a garment that we can choose to wear. We traveled through the portal of imagination and learned that feeling is the passport that gives us access to any reality we desire. And we practiced persistence, the loyalty to our inner vision, until the mirror of the world had no choice but to reflect our new home. The journey, as we have seen, was not to build a new kingdom. It was to reclaim the throne that has always been vacant in the center of your consciousness. The final truth, the master key you now hold in your hand, is this: your state of consciousness is not a reaction to the world, it is a sovereign decree to the world. You are not a reflection of your circumstances are a reflection of you. Your journey does not end with the end of these words. It is now that your reign truly begins. Your first act as a sovereign every morning upon waking is simple. Consciously choose the crown you will wear that day. Will it be the crown of gratitude, that of confidence, that of peace, that of love, that of... Remember always, you are not a subject in the kingdom of life. You are the king, you are the queen. It's time to rule. If this journey of self-discovery and empowerment has resonated with you, we invite you to continue this exploration. Subscribe to our channel, Path of Knowledge, for more guides to inner mastery. Like this video as a declaration of your own sovereignty. Share this master key with someone who is ready to claim their throne. Thank you for your time, for your courage, and for the brave decision to remember who you really are.